continent is known for its historical economic strength, the reality on the ground tells a very different story for millions of people. Wealth disparity is growing at alarming rates, particularly in Southern Europe, where economic divides are becoming even more stark.
Welcome back to Brand Vanguard. Today, we're diving deep into a critical issue that's shaping Europe in 2024: wealth inequality. While the continent is known for its historical economic strength, the reality on the ground tells a very different story for millions of people. Wealth disparity is growing at alarming rates, particularly in Southern Europe, where economic divides are becoming even more stark. In this video, we'll break down the numbers, analyze the causes, and understand why Southern Europe is feeling the brunt of these economic challenges. We'll also explore how wealth disparity continues to impact everyday life across Europe, especially in light of ongoing economic instability. Part 1: Introduction to Wealth Inequality in Europe. Let's start with the basics. What is wealth inequality? Simply put, it refers to the unequal distribution of assets among citizens. While some enjoy vast financial reserves, property and investments, others struggle to afford basic living costs. According to recent reports, Europe's wealth inequality has reached its highest levels in decades. A report by the European Central Bank in 2023 revealed that the wealthiest 10% of Europeans hold nearly 60% of the continent's wealth, while the bottom 50% barely owns 5%. This disparity has far-reaching consequences not only economically but socially and politically. Part 2: Southern Europe's struggle now. Let's take a closer look at Southern Europe. Countries like Greece, Italy, Spain, and Portugal have faced unique economic challenges over the past decade, and their struggles have exacerbated wealth inequality. Starting with Greece, which was one of the hardest-hit nations during the 2008 financial crisis, wealth inequality remains a pressing issue. Even with modest recovery, the gap between the rich and poor continues to widen. Greece's top 1% controls over 20% of the nation's wealth, while nearly a third of its population lives at risk of poverty or social exclusion. In Italy, things are no better. Italy's economy has stagnated for years, and its unemployment rate, especially among the youth, remains troubling. Regions like Sicily and Calabria suffer disproportionately, with large sections of the population facing precarious employment and living conditions. Spain's economy tells a similar story. Despite periods of growth, unemployment remains high, especially after the COVID-19 pandemic. Wealth is heavily concentrated in a few major cities, while rural and less developed areas are left behind. Housing prices in cities like Madrid and Barcelona have skyrocketed, making homeownership increasingly difficult for the average citizen. Part 3: Factors driving inequality. So, what's driving this widening wealth gap in Europe, and especially in Southern Europe? There are a few key factors we need to consider. 1. Economic crises and recovery. The 2008 financial crisis had a devastating impact on Southern Europe. Countries like Greece, Italy, and Spain faced deep recessions which led to massive unemployment, austerity measures, and bailouts. While Northern Europe recovered faster, Southern Europe was left grappling with long-term economic scarring. 2. Unemployment and underemployment. Youth unemployment remains a significant issue, especially in Southern Europe. In Greece, for instance, nearly 30% of young people are unemployed. This creates a cycle of poverty as younger generations struggle to build wealth compared to older ones. 3. Real estate and housing inequality. The housing market is another key driver of wealth inequality. In major cities, rising housing prices and gentrification have displaced lower-income families, further widening the gap between those who own property and those who don't. 4. Tax policies and ineffective redistribution. Lastly, we need to talk about tax policies. Southern Europe, in particular, has struggled with inefficient tax systems. High levels of tax evasion and weak enforcement mean that wealth is not being effectively redistributed, which further entrenches inequality. Part 4: The human cost of wealth inequality. Now that we've covered the macroeconomics factors, let's take a look at how this wealth inequality affects ordinary people. Interviews with individuals from different parts of Southern Europe sharing their personal stories struggling to find work, affording housing, or accessing healthcare. For many, wealth inequality isn't just about money. It impacts access to education, healthcare, and even political representation. In Southern Europe, where many governments have cut back on public services due to austerity, the poorest segments of society are often left behind. Part 5, Solutions and Outlook for 2024 and beyond. So, what's being done about wealth inequality in Europe? Governments and international organizations have proposed several solutions. 1. Progressive taxation and wealth taxes. One idea gaining traction is the implementation of progressive wealth taxes, particularly targeting the richest individuals in society. Countries like Spain and France have introduced wealth taxes aimed at reducing the extreme concentration of wealth at the top. 2. Universal Basic Income (UBI). Some regions in Europe are experimenting with UBI programs, providing citizens with a guaranteed minimum income. This could help level the playing field by offering financial support to the most vulnerable. 3. Boosting public investment in education and healthcare. Investing in public services like education and healthcare is critical for closing the gap. By ensuring that everyone has access to these services, we can give the next generation a fairer shot at success. As we've seen, wealth inequality is not just a distant issue, it's one that affects millions of lives across Europe every day. Southern Europe, in particular, faces unique challenges, but there are solutions on the horizon. The question remains, will governments act fast enough to prevent further widening of the gap? Thank you for watching this deep dive into wealth inequality in Europe, a 2024 breakdown. If you found this video informative, don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave your thoughts in the comments. What do you think can be done to reduce wealth inequality? Until next time, this is Brand Vanguard, uncovering the stories that matter most. Subscribe to Brand Vanguard for more in-depth analysis on global economic trends.